Over the next 3 or 4 Saturdays, we're going to look at some reports of serial killers that are a little bit problematic, but we hope to straighten them out a little bit. Anyhow, today we're talking about Mohammed Mesfewi. They had some interesting ways to punish people back in the day, most of them pretty brutal. Although I expect that 150 years from now, some writer somewhere will begin an article with, they had some interesting ways to punish people back in the day. And they will refer to the electric chair, firing squads, hanging, lethal ejection. So let's go way back and take a little trip to Morocco. Now, I want all of you to take the story I'm about to tell you with a grain of salt. We've had to piece a few things together, and almost all of the reports we have for this man come from countries far away, far outside Africa, and are mainly dispatches, which don't provide too much detail. So we can't be 100% on the accuracy of the details of the story, but the general ideas are probably true. We're going to point out some problems with the dispatches as we go. Let's start with the man's name. It's listed in most sources as Hajj Mohammed Mesfewi. It is said that he was from Morocco, and we have no idea when he was born or where. Hajj would not have been his real first name. Hajj is a term used to refer to a Muslim person who has made the pilgrimage to Mecca that every adult Muslim is supposed to make at least once in their lifetime. So here we've learned something about Mohammed Mesfewi. He probably did make the pilgrimage to Mecca before he died, and so is at least a somewhat practicing Muslim. What's he accused of, though? So far from practicing Islam, so removed from that, or any of the religions really, that's what he's accused of. This picture has been used dozens of times by creators claiming this is Mesfewi. It's not. This is a blurred up picture of Abdel Rahim Mansour, an Egyptian serial killer. Although there was photography in Morocco going all the way back to about 1870, police and judicial authorities were not yet using photography, and personal photography was very expensive, something that someone in Mesfewi's position would not have afforded. So we don't have any pictures of him. It's said that Mesfewi was a shoemaker and also a trader at Marrakesh in Morocco. He had a 70-year-old woman accomplice, and we don't know a thing about how or if they are related, but her name was either Anna or it might have been Rahali. Mesfewi himself was described only as an old man. Either Anna, but more likely Mesfewi, was also a scribe. In those days, there were a few people who were literate, and if they needed to write a letter, they would pay a scribe to do it for them. So women would come to his shop either to have some shoes repaired, to trade, or to have a letter written for them. He and Anna would give them drugged wine and decapitate them, steal their belongings, and then dump them into a deep pit that was below his shop, or bury them in the garden outside of either the shop or his home. In another report of the story, the victims had all been invited to dinner and killed in their sleep and then dumped below his house, which makes a little more sense given his shop was unlikely to have any kind of garden. It's more likely a combination. Some were customers from his shop, and some were people invited into their home and or lured to their home. In this version as well, the two culprits were paraded around the city on donkeys before being jailed. He was caught when the parents of a young girl traced her movements back to his shop, one version says. One would say that there were 26 victims, another would say that there were 30, and still another 36. We have no idea how many victims this guy had, but it was more than 3, and that makes him a serial killer. Anna was tortured to death during interrogations, apparently, and Mesfewi confessed to stealing and then killing the women, often getting just very small amounts in coin. So here's where it gets even stranger. He was sentenced to be crucified, and the date set to May the 2nd, 1906. Apparently there was some outcry from local foreign officials about that, and so they changed the means to beheading because that would somehow satisfy foreign critics. In one report, authorities in Tangiers denied ever planning to conduct a crucifixion in the case. To satisfy the public desire that he be made to suffer, for 28 days he was taken into the market square and lashed 10 times with switches taken from an acacia tree, complete with the thorns. Could he have survived this? Well, perhaps. The legend says he did. And finally, he was taken to a bazaar on June the 11th, 1906, and walled up alive, after being chained so that when the last bricks were put in place, he could neither escape nor could he even sit down. His date of death is recorded for 2 days later, and that's the day he fell silent. When we assess the credibility of one version over the others, we have to remember that the far more dramatic version that showed up in American papers were probably grossly embellished because yellow journalism was in full swing at the time. And they embellished all sorts of stories, especially criminal stories, to sell newspapers, not to tell the truth. That was not their goal. Thank you for listening. Until next Saturday. If you're enjoying these videos and want more, don't forget to subscribe and turn on your notifications so that you don't miss any videos. Thank you for watching. We really appreciate it.